If you're looking for tips on using mohair yarn in your knitting and crochet, then you have come to the right place. I have a blog post already, so I'm going to link to that below in the description. Check it out. Let's go through my top tips. Number one is to choose simple stitches and simple patterns, because mohair, fluffy yarn, is what we're here for. Let it do the talking. It's the star of the show, essentially. So by choosing simple stitches and simple patterns, you're not having anything else take over or take away from the fun of just going with the fluffy stuff. I've tried tall stitches, I've tried mixing up stitches, and ultimately it just looks a bit messy. And also it adds to the risk of messing up. So if you're going to have simple stitches, then the chances are that you're not going to go as wrong as often. You might still go wrong, I don't know, but you can see what you're doing a little bit clearer. You have more confidence in what you're working with. It's just easier to stick to the basics. Second top tip is use a bigger hook. Try a bigger hook or needle size, because that way your stitches are easier to see as well. And in mohair, and I'm going to use can I just say mohair, and then it might mean brushed alpaca, it might mean acrylic, but you know, it's just fluffy yarn. But I'm just like, that's my default setting, is to call it all mohair, even though it's not. If you're using fluffy yarn, it can be really difficult to see an individual stitch, especially in crochet. The fibres, all the fluffy fibres, are going to disguise where things might be. So, I mean, you can take your time. You don't have to rush your crochet. You don't have to rush what you're making. So it's all about, actually, that's another good top tip, isn't it? Take your time. There's no rush. It does take a little bit more concentration in terms of, I guess, your movements and focus, but I think the results are completely and utterly worth it. But things like simple stitches and things like making your tools bigger, it just helps the job a little bit more. And then also that means using stitch markers too. So that's another really useful trick. I am reluctant to use stitch markers in the day-to-day, because even like unclipping one stitch and moving it up a row is enough to go, well, that takes far too much time, I'm not going to do that, and I can see my stitches. Not necessarily with mohair, you can't. So even if you think you're going to be super clever and just go without, it's not. It's the opposite. You're actually making life difficult for yourself. The stitch markers, even if it's just at the end of each row, will help you in the long run. My goodness, I've easily missed stitches and made my work all skewy because I thought I knew best. Just use the stitch markers. Also, if you're quite worried about how to see the stitches using mohair on its own, hold it with another yarn. It makes the working a little bit more fun, a little bit more relaxing, and that's because you've got another yarn with it that might not be fluffy, and it's got a bit more structure to it, meaning that you can see the stitches a bit more, you can see the pattern a bit more. Still use the stitch markers though, but holding your mohair with another yarn, it helps enormously. And the chances are, I don't know, I think 9 times out of 10, the patterns that you buy or get online are usually held with another yarn. Not always, but that tends to be how it is, and it is a lot easier to use when it is held with another yarn. It also makes work easier to frog if you do go wrong. So mohair on its own, all those fibres they'll hold on to each other. They don't want to let go at all. So when you hold it with a non-fluffy yarn, they're kind of not quite so clingy. There's a little, I mean, there's no science in this. This is just my kind of like imagination going here. But if this is mohair on its own, then when it's held with another yarn, It's not quite so desperately holding on tight. That's how I see it in my brain, and it is easier to frog. Having said that, even held with another smoother yarn, it is still a bit of a nightmare to undo your work. So if you're going to frog, frog slowly and carefully. Never yank it, never pull your work really quickly and like aggressively because of frustration. Don't do it, because you will tighten knots and make your life that much worse. It's a pain to try and frog mohair. It's not impossible, but it does take a million years. So that's another reason to choose simple stitches and simple patterns, because you're less likely to go wrong, and then you don't have to frog it. Frogging is no fun. And I think even if you try and put it in the freezer, which apparently relaxes the fibres, I'm not sure that that works. I've tried it maybe, did I in my memory bank, I think I have this recollection of trying to freeze it and seeing if it actually works, and nothing actually happened. It didn't seem to make a difference to me. Maybe you've tried it and it has worked, I don't know. When I tried freezing my crochet that I had made using mohair, it didn't frog any quicker, any simpler, any smoother. So I think that's a bit of a myth. But what you have to do is just go very slowly. What has sometimes made a difference is the direction in which I pull my work. I can't tell you factually which direction it is that works, but just experiment and try. Sometimes it might just be straight upwards and it is doing it very slowly. Sometimes it's at an angle, and I can't remember which way the angle works. I'm sorry. I haven't had to frog anything for a while. Actually, no, it's true, I haven't, because everything I make out of mohair is generally quite simple. Another top tip then, buy one ball of yarn first rather than a sweater quantity of mohair yarn. You want to make sure it is not going to be scritchy scratchy or even give you a rash. You want to make sure you actually like it. You want to make sure that you can use it in a way that's reasonably fun and not a chore. It saves on more pain down the road, doesn't it? And also you can swatch with that one ball. So don't just like rub the ball against your face. Make a swatch with it to see how it works, to see if you like it, to see what it's like holding it with something else. You can see whether or not it will be right for your project. And that way, if it is wrong, you've only spent the money on one ball rather than 10 or however many. The other thing you could do as well is try a budget yarn first. I've bought mohair from Flying Tiger and it's been all right. It's not the same quality as Rowan, but it's okay, it does the job. And I've bought Drops do really cheap silk mohair, and then you just can decide whether or not it works for you, and then gradually go to the hardcore stuff if that's what you're interested in. You don't have to, obviously, you can do what you like. But yeah, just buying that one ball of yarn means that you're not going to splurge on something that actually turns out you're never going to use. The other thing you could do as well is just ask people in your yarn community if you can just borrow enough to do a swatch with to see if it works for you. When you have swatched, sometimes, depending on the yarn choices you've made, if it's particularly fluffy mohair, it's probably going to be, it's really hard to see stitches when you're counting. So something like your swatch, how do you count the stitches if all the fluff is hiding them? Look to the light. If you hold up your swatch, you can see all the stitches. It's fabulous, and that way you can count them really easily. If you have to count between 10 centimeters or 4 inches for a gauge swatch, I wish I'd brought a swatch so I could show you. I might show you on something I've already got here. But I use stitch markers and measure it first on a flat surface and just measure the 0 point and put a stitch marker in and put another stitch marker in at the 10 centimetre bit and then hold it up. I'm just trying to find something where I can show you what I mean. Here I have a leg warmer that is actually, this is a cotton alpaca, brushed alpaca, a blend of the cotton and the alpaca, but it's not majorly fluffy like a kid silk mohair, but let's just go with this. So what I would do is, let's say I need to measure for a swatch. I would put my first stitch marker at the beginning of a stitch. Then on my flat surface, I would measure 10 centimetres. I don't have a tape measure with me, so I'm just guessing. But I would do something like that. And I would have done that on a flat surface. Then I hold it up to the light so I can see the stitches. And then you don't have to worry about having an accurate 10 centimetres because it's already marked out for you. So you can wibble wobble it all around the place if you want to, but you still know where your measurement is. And you can do that for rows as well. And I haven't had to employ that trick very often, but mostly when I'm using mohair on its own or brushed alpaca on its own, and I genuinely can't see where the stitches are. I hope I haven't made this. This doesn't sound that scary, does it? All of this fluff. I mean, it's fun. I love it. It looks amazing. And then finally, my last tip that I can think of, and I'm sure there's loads, feel free to share your own if you have some, is, oh my gosh, when it comes to washing it, be careful. Only because I have a jumper. Sorry, I went round, I had a bit of a frenzy this morning and I went round the house collecting everything I'd ever made out of fluffy yarn, and so it's all down there in a pile. Look, see, finished objects, unfinished objects. I have them all here because I was I might do another video, I'm not sure yet, I haven't decided. Anyway, they're all here, but this jumper is the same as this one, which is a granny square sweater on my blog, and a video here on YouTube. I have it on my channel on how to make a granny square jumper. But this one needed a wash, and I had used yarn that was machine washable. It's a double knit held with drops silk mohair, a lace weight mohair held with a double knit merino. And I knew, I knew the double knit merino was super wash and I could put it in the machine. I didn't even think about the mohair, to be honest. So I put this in the washing machine as is. And when I finished when the cycle finished and I took the jumper out, I have never seen so much excess fluff in all my life. It was all over the washing machine. So this top tip is put it in a pillowcase and make sure it's secure in the pillowcase before you wash it, or hand wash it even. I mean, I didn't damage my washing machine, it was fine, but I had to clean it and that was a right faff. Wash it in a pillowcase and actually make sure you read the instructions on the ball band first anyway. And it's come out absolutely fine actually, which I was really pleased with. I didn't ruin my jumper, woohoo! But I did nearly ruin my washing machine. So I think that's it. I did have another one. As I was talking, I thought of another great top tip and I've forgotten it again. So if you've remembered for me, can you let me know? Because I wonder what it was now. I don't know. Do you like using mohair or other fluffy yarns? Are you slightly reluctant because of the frogging aspect or one of the other aspects of using a fluffy yarn? Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do the bell duffer woofer, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.